Sometime before dawn this morning, a child died in Crimea, not on a battlefield, not near the front lines, in Russian-occupied territory that Moscow has spent 12 years telling the world was safe, stable, and theirs. And by the time the sun came up, the same overnight window had triggered seismic sensors near the Kremlin. Ukraine wasn't just striking Crimea last night, it was running simultaneous operations across 12 Russian regions at once. Here's what happened on the night of June 24th into June 25th, and most of it didn't make the headlines. Ukraine launched one of its largest overnight drone campaigns of the war. Russia's own defense ministry admitted to shooting down 269 drones over Crimea and across 12 regions simultaneously. 5 people were killed, 2 in Crimea, including a child, 2 in Bryansk, 1 in Belgorod. A major oil depot in Poltavskaya, Krasnodar, the same one that had reportedly already been hit days earlier, caught fire again. 2 oil refineries in Ufa, in Russia's Republic of Bashkortostan, 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine's border, were struck the same morning. Black smoke over the city, social media footage of the skyline burning, and power went out across Crimea. Sevastopol, Russia's most symbolically important naval base, went dark, all in one night. Now, the story behind this attack didn't start last night. It's been building for weeks, and the details are extraordinary. Crimea is in the middle of the worst fuel crisis since Russia annexed it in 2014. By June 21st, Russian-installed authorities had halted all civilian gasoline sales entirely. Every drop of fuel was reserved for government and military vehicles only. But here's the detail that caught my eye. In the weeks before that, if you were a resident of Sevastopol and you wanted to access a 20-liter fuel coupon, that's barely 5 gallons, barely enough to fill half a tank, you were required to install a Russian state-controlled messaging app called Max to receive the QR code. Not WhatsApp, not Telegram, the Kremlin's app. And those codes? The governor confirmed they were claimed literally within a few dozen seconds of release. 5 gallons per person, gone in seconds. Meanwhile, entrepreneurs were doing what people do in a crisis. One hotel was offering 10 to 20 liters of fuel as a booking bonus for a 2-night stay. A real estate agency was offering guests a luxury seaside villa in exchange for 100 liters of gasoline. Fuel has become a bartering currency on a peninsula that Russia calls part of its own sovereign territory. This isn't random. Ukraine's defense minister Fedorov said it himself publicly. It looks like in the near future, Crimea will become an island. Ukraine is not trying to invade Crimea. It doesn't need to. It's cutting every supply line. Russia feeds Crimea through 3 channels: road and rail tankers over the Kerch Bridge, sea shipments, and land routes through occupied southern Ukraine. Ukraine has attacked all 3. In mid-June alone, Ukraine struck bridge access points at 4 different entry points to Crimea in a single week: Chonhar, Henichesk, Mirn, and Armyansk. Every time you extend a supply route by just 80 to 100 kilometers, a single truck carries 30% less cargo per day. Do that at scale, repeatedly, and the peninsula starves itself slowly. And here's what makes this even more striking. In one intercepted phone call released by Ukrainian military intelligence, a resident of Armyansk said, "We have no gasoline. The trains run poorly. 8 hours from Armyansk to Simferopol by train. Minibuses don't run at all. Everything will get worse by summer." That call was from before the June 25th attacks. Now let's talk about something that got buried entirely on June 25th, the Romania story. While Ukraine was striking Crimea, Russia expelled Romania's consul general from St. Petersburg, shut down the consulate entirely, severed direct diplomatic relations with a NATO member state. This was payback. In May, a Russian drone crashed into an apartment block in the Romanian city of Galati, the first time in this entire war that a Russian drone struck a populated area inside NATO territory and caused injuries. Romania had scrambled 2 F-16s. NATO convened. The US ambassador publicly stated, "We will defend every inch of NATO territory." But here's the detail that barely got reported anywhere. Galati sits right on the Danube River, directly across from Ukraine. When Russia targets Ukrainian Danube ports, its drones are flying within a mile or 2 of Romanian apartment windows. NATO had an anti-drone system called Merops operational in Romania, but commanders decided it was too risky to fire it over a populated city. That is the situation on NATO's eastern edge today. Russian drones are crashing into NATO apartment buildings, and the alliance is still calibrating its response. Zoom out, and the picture gets even wilder. Russia's oil refineries are now running at their lowest capacity since 2009, below 4 million barrels per day. This is the country that is the world's third largest oil producer. Ukraine has struck 40 Russian oil facilities since January of this year alone. Russia has quietly lowered its environmental standards for commercial gasoline, approving dirtier fuel as an emergency measure, just to keep the pumps running. That detail was buried in a government decree. Russians are now putting substandard fuel into their cars because the country can't produce enough compliant gasoline. And as Sweden's intelligence services recently alleged, Russia may be manipulating its own economic data. The true inflation rate, they say, could be closer to 15%, not the official 5.6% being reported. What is happening in Crimea's gas stations and on Krasnodar's roads is not isolated. It is the visible edge of a much larger unraveling. Russian Parliament Speaker Volodin went on television and warned of harsher blows with more powerful weapons. Some Russian hardliners went further and publicly called for nuclear weapons. That is the sound of a political system that has run out of good options. Here is the thing that doesn't get said enough. Crimea was not just a military prize for Putin. It was the symbol, the proof that he could take what the Soviet collapse gave away and reclaim it. The jewel in the narrative that Russia is rising again. That peninsula now has no gasoline for its civilians, no summer camps for its children, no working power grid in its biggest city. Its hotel industry has collapsed, its tourist season is gone, and its residents are trading fuel like gold in a wartime black market. The same overnight drone campaign that killed 5 people and triggered seismic sensors near the Kremlin also hit oil refineries 1,400 kilometers away in Bashkortostan, all while Ukraine's president attended a diplomatic summit and briefed NATO allies. This is not improvised retaliation anymore. This is a strategy, and it is working. Drop a comment if you think Russia has a response to this, or if you think the pressure is becoming irreversible. Subscribe for the next one, because this war is moving faster than anyone is covering it.